So Marvel has made $22 billion at the box office over the last 10 years, and that doesn't include digital download sales, DVD sales, toy sales, or merchandise sales. So Marvel is making billions of dollars out of these movies. Every time they release a movie, it's money that's flowing into their bank accounts. So it's correct to say that Marvel is an unstoppable juggernaut. But for me, Marvel are making a terrible mistake by making an Eternals movie. I think this movie will really struggle at the box office and could be their first flop that goes on to damage the Marvel Cinematic Universe very heavily. And I think they need to cancel this movie straight away. I'm going to go into some key reasons why I think this movie will struggle to make money. So the first reason is that The Eternals is very complex and very niche. And we've seen before big budget science fiction movies really struggle at the box office. Movies like Prometheus and Watchmen have really struggled because they fit into that category of being complex and too niche. And again, that is the category that The Eternals fits into. Now, The Watchmen is a great movie. I've watched it many times. But just because it's a great movie doesn't mean to say it's going to be a real hit at the box office. So The Eternals may be a very good movie, yet it doesn't mean to say it's going to go on to make a lot of money. That's a very different subject. For Marvel movies to make a lot of money, they need to go mainstream and bring in people of all ages, everybody from children to older people, and build a strong audience around their movies. And for me, The Eternals will not be able to do that. And that's because it's too complex and too niche a storyline. And also the comic books have shown that. The Eternals comic books have never been very popular in terms of sales. Now, another key point is the poor cast. Actors like Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, and Kamal Najami are not naturally very talented actors, certainly not in the ballpark of Scarlett Johansson or Mark Ruffalo. And the cast so far really lacks the level of charisma that somebody like Chris Pratt or Robert Downey Jr. can bring to the movie, and that will be a real missing point for this movie.
Heartbreaker, will you help? What's his name?
Red Snapper.
Now, another key point is the protagonist of this storyline is actually very confusing. So the main character is Sersi, which is due to be played by Angelina Jolie. Now, in the comic book history of the Eternals, she's been in many different scenarios and never really gone mainstream. So she spent time in ancient Rome and the French Revolution, and she also became a New York socialite. Now, Sersi did also join the Avengers and pursued a relationship with Captain America and later the Black Knight. So Sersi has been pushed into many different scenarios and storylines, yet never been very popular, and she doesn't have a very understandable origin like characters like Spider-Man or the Incredible Hulk that make them very mainstream and very identifiable. In fact, the origins of Sersi is almost bewildering and very confusing, and I think that's another key point that's really going to damage the success of this movie. And another key point of all Marvel movies that makes them successful is their comedic charm, especially characters like Groot. They add a level of humour and levity that makes Marvel movies so successful and so funny, and The Eternals just does not have that. They do not have characters like Peter Quill who can make this movie funny and just fun for people of all ages to watch. So for me, this movie will really struggle because it does not have characters like Peter Quill or actors like Chris Pratt.
Ha ha! You can be my wingman anytime. Top Gun?
Now, another key point is there's no variety within the superpowers of these characters. And if you look at the Avengers, one of the key points that makes the Avengers so popular is the variety of their superpowers. So you have characters like Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk, whose superpowers are very different, yet they can still work together. And it's that variety that makes the Avengers movies so unpredictable and so entertaining. Yet with the Eternals, their superpowers are very similar and very science-based, so it makes them too niche. So their superpowers are very narrow and very niche. So I'm very surprised that Marvel would want to push ahead with characters that are almost the opposite to the Avengers. Marvel have had so much success with the Avengers, yet they're now going in the opposite direction. I find it's bewildering that they're going ahead with these characters. They are just not mainstream popular characters. Now, another key point is these characters are actually immortal. So again, that makes the movie very boring and very predictable. And I think that's the real key point. This movie appears very boring and very predictable compared to movies like the Avengers. So I'm just bewildered that Marvel are going ahead with this movie, and I think it will really struggle to make serious money at the box office. If it makes $400 to $500 million, I think that will be a correct amount for this movie. But there is one potential saving grace, and that is Galactus. This movie will be underpinned by the success of Galactus. If Marvel cast the right actor, they could make this movie into a good movie that makes $700 to $800 million. but without a strong Galactus actor or character, I think this movie will really struggle, and especially amongst children, so children will not be drawn to the Eternals, and that means the toy sales and the merchandise sales will really struggle to take off for Marvel. So for me, Marvel really need to cancel this movie as soon as possible, and try to test these characters and see if there is an interest in these movies, because so far the Eternals comics have not been very popular, nowhere near the level of success of Spider-Man or Thor or Iron Man. So for me, this movie is going to really struggle at the box office. Now if you disagree, if you have your own comments, your own thoughts, please leave them below. But for me, I think this is a terrible mistake that Marvel are pursuing making an Eternals movie. So again, leave your comments below and also like and subscribe. But I'm bewildered that Marvel are pushing ahead with this movie, and I think it will be a real flop at the box office that will really damage the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forwards.